Welcome to the Atheist Witch Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast for witches or any curious minds to learn more about a non-theistic approach to witchcraft. Hello and welcome back to the Atheist Witch Podcast, the show for curious minds and witches who practice a non-theistic, science-minded approach to the craft. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a topic that's truly foundational to witchcraft and, I believe, the heart of my practice: cycles of our world. Before we fully immerse ourselves, I wanted to share a quick update from my own practice. I often find that the most powerful magic happens when I manage to slow down and notice the shifts around me. As a green witch, I spend a lot of time outside, and I've been deeply focused lately on attuning myself to the constant rhythms of nature. It's easy to feel lost in the hustle of modern life, but lately I've found grounding by consistently just observing those cycles in my own life. I'm preparing for the end of the solar year, and my family has always believed that you will spend the year the way you bring it in, so the year ahead is forefront in my mind right now. This part of the yearly cycle, for me, is always the turning point between the deep introspection of the dark half of the year and then the very beginning of my planning phase in the lead up to Imbolc. It feels like I'm standing right at the edge of two major phases of my own personal annual wheel. I find tremendous peace in aligning my own personal energy, my intentions, my focus, and my goals with observable, predictable, and magnificent rhythms in the earth herself. I encourage all of you to take a moment this week and really feel the cycle that you're in. I'm about to dive into our big topic for today's episode, but first I wanted to let you know that this is not a Wheel of the Year episode, though I will be discussing the scientific significance of these points throughout the annual solar cycle. I'm excited to be planning a more comprehensive Wheel of the Year episode for early next year, including some of the content from this year's bonus episodes, but with a lot more, including how to step outside of the 8 Sabbats and create your own meaningful observational cycle. Let's get philosophical for a minute. Why should an atheist care about cycles at all? And the answer, as usual, is optimization and mental health. Tracking these cycles isn't superstition. It's about becoming a researcher and observer of your own lifetime. You are using predictable natural rhythms from the immense solar system down to the biochemical processes in your own body to help manage your often chaotic human existence. Aligning your work ethic with the waxing light, for example, or mandating deep rest during the waning dark, reduces burnout and it fosters psychological resilience. Cycles are the map that we use to find efficiency and grounding in a noisy world. As atheopagans and non-theistic witches, we strip away divine figures, but we are absolutely left with a profound system of belief and practice that's rooted in the natural world. For us, instead of something supernatural or external, the universe and nature itself are considered sacred. And what is nature if not a series of elegant, interconnected cycles? For me, understanding these cycles from a purely scientific, observational perspective is the core of finding meaning, rhythm, and purpose in my own craft. The most macro, undeniable cycle that we observe is the solar cycle. This gives us our seasons, and for some, our major holidays and the Wheel of the Year. First, let's talk about the science of the seasons. Seasons are caused by the Earth's axial tilt as it orbits the Sun. The Sun, as our primary energy source, fuels almost all life on Earth. Its cycle is the foundation of the tropical or solar year, which is approximately 365 1/4 days long. The solar cycle is a constant engine of energy, growth, decay, and rebirth. Our entire concept of time, agriculture, and life itself hinges on this predictable and magnificent rotation. So the solstices, Letha in the summer and Yule in the winter, mark the most extreme tilt towards or away from the sun, giving us the longest and shortest days in our respective hemispheres, representing the peak and trough of solar energy. The equinoxes, Ostara in spring and Mabon in autumn, mark the 2 points during the Earth's orbit when the axis is neither tilted toward or away from the sun. This results in the remarkable and observable phenomenon of a day and night that are of nearly equal length all over the world. This astronomical balance is why we celebrate them as points of equilibrium and harmony and transition. Even this solar rhythm is part of something even more vast. The phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes shows that the exact point in the heavens where the sun appears on the spring equinox has slowly shifted over time over approximately 26,000 years. This reminds us that even our most stable foundational cycle is itself a tiny part of a colossal cosmic rhythm. I find this to be a truly humbling realization. Long before deities were attached to them, the solstices and equinoxes were practical life or death markers. Sites like Stonehenge or Newgrange are astronomical clocks built by ancient people to track these crucial moments for agriculture and survival. Our modern holidays on the wheel of the year are fundamentally rooted in the pragmatic, observable necessity of planting, harvesting, and securing shelter. Celebrating Yule wasn't always about a sun god. It was about the collective psychological relief that the light was reliably returning. So from a practical perspective, we celebrate these points not because a god is being born or dying, but because of the profound biological and psychological shifts that they inspire in us. So for example, on the summer solstice at Letha, the longest day, you could harness that peak solar energy. Plan an outdoor intention ritual at noon when the sun is at its highest point. Write down your biggest goal for the year and leave that paper in a sunny spot for the day to symbolically charge it with solar energy. Around Yule, on the other hand, at the winter solstice, you can use the longest night for deep shadow work. Light a single candle in a dark room. Spend an hour in quiet meditation and allow that darkness to represent the rest that you need and the candle to represent the tiny, persistent hope of renewal. On the equinox, since the light and the dark are equal, you can perform a balance spell or a grounding ritual. For Ostara in spring, clear your altar of anything old. Leave space for new seeds and new projects. In autumn at Mabon, you can focus on gratitude journaling and balance out what you've gained against what you need to release. The equinoxes themselves are prime times for balance and grounding and self-assessment to ensure that we're aligned for the coming half of the year. You may be wondering about some of the cross-quarter days. Imbolc, for example, is the scientific reality of the increased daylight hours finally being noticeable enough to spark motivation. You can use this time for creative breakthroughs or planning projects. Or around Beltane, you notice the burst of biological energy in the plant world. This time, you could focus on personal growth or community action as the world is bursting to life around you. It would be irresponsible to discuss the cycles of our world without discussing climate cycles, embracing a bit of chaos, and ultimately taking responsibility for our effect on the world. While the solar cycle is reliably consistent, there are larger and slower and chaotic climate cycles that shape our world as well. Think of things like El Niño and La Niña, which are shifting weather patterns over years. Or the truly vast Milankovitch cycle, which describes how the Earth's orbit and tilt slightly wobble over tens of thousands of years, which can drive the massive glacial cycles on Earth or the ice ages. These cycles are not perfect. They're complex systems that are governed by multiple factors. Ocean currents, atmospheric pressure, solar input, for example, which interact in ways that are often unpredictable in the short term. This is a crucial lesson in non-control. We can predict the seasonal cycles, but we have to adapt to the climate cycle. And this instills a crucial tenet of witchcraft, and that is ecological responsibility. We've talked about this a little bit before in the Future of Witchcraft episode, and we'll talk about it again in future episodes, but Because we don't believe that a benevolent deity is steering the boat, we have to recognize that the current acceleration of climate change is a direct and observable scientific consequence of human action. Our magic, therefore, should include environmental activism, sustainable practice, rituals of ecological grief and healing. It's the ultimate expression of living in alignment with the natural world, even its chaotic and threatened aspects. Let's talk about the lunar cycle. The cycles of the moon are a microcosm of the greater turning of the wheel, and they provide a weekly or daily rhythm for us to follow. The moon's gravitational pull is undeniably influencing the Earth's tides and even subtly impacts parts of the land. Our brains are also wired to recognize patterns, and the constant change in light is a visual cue for intention setting and self-reflection. The moon's phase cycle is called the synodic month, or lunation. It averages about 29.5 days long. For those new to moon terms, the synodic month is just a sciencey word for one full cycle from new moon to new moon. Now here's where the math gets fun and leads to an important concept for witches. The solar year, as we recall, is 365 1/4 days long, and it does not perfectly divide by the lunar cycle of 29 1/2 days. Specifically, 365 1/4 divided by 29.5 gives us approximately 12.37 lunations. This means that most years contain 12 full moons, but roughly every 2 to 3 years we get an extra, or the 13th moon. This phenomenon is sometimes known as a blue moon when it's the second full moon in a calendar month. This is a beautiful example of two cycles colliding. For the atheist witch, the extra moon isn't a magical gift from the cosmos, but a mathematically predictable bonus opportunity. We call it the intercalary moon, and dedicate it to things that fall outside of our normal rhythm. It serves as an unscheduled chance for intense purification, radical shadow work, doubling down on major manifestations that need a little extra boost of lunar energy. Many ancient cultures, realizing this natural misalignment, actually employed a 13-month lunar calendar to stay closer to the natural rhythm, and we can intentionally reclaim that framework for our practice. Before the advent of the Roman and Gregorian solar calendars, lunar calendars were a universal method for tracking time, often tied directly to women's cycles, tides, and community festivals. The shift to a purely solar calendar detached daily life from this powerful, visible celestial rhythm. So reclaiming the moon cycles isn't just about the phases. It's about reintegrating a fundamental and ancient rhythm into our consciousness that our modern clock-driven world has trained us to ignore. For the atheist witch, we can use the visible light of the moon as a subconscious framework for action and release. So around the new and dark moon, we have a clean slate. This is a dark, introspective time. It's best for planning and seed planting. So you could try taking 30 minutes to do a new moon writing exercise. Write out exactly what you want to achieve in the next month. Then fold that paper up and place it under a dark stone, or even bury it to symbolize the seed of your intention germinating. As the moon waxes in the period of growth, the light grows, and so does our energy and momentum. This is the working phase. It's a crescendo of action to refine those plans that you made. So every few days, you could take an action step toward the goal that you wrote down. Use the growing light as a visual cue for your growing effort and momentum. And if you hit a block, that waxing gibbous moon is a good reminder to take time for refinement and adjustment to reach your goal. Because as you reach the full moon, the peak of energy and clarity, it's prime time for manifestation and celebration of what you've achieved. So this is a great time to charge tools. Leave your crystals, your tarot deck, your scrying mirror, or your moon water outside overnight to be bathed in the moonlight. This visually represents that peak focus and clarity that the full cycle can offer you. And then, of course, as we move into the waning moon, as the light recedes, we can focus on release, self-assessment, and purification. This is a time to release. So during the waning moon, you can perform a banishment spell focused on getting rid of old habits or blocks or negative self-talk. Write down the thing that you want to release, and as that moon is visually shrinking, You can ritually destroy the paper and fuel your subconscious and let that negativity recede. Let's talk next about personal rhythms, those monthly cycles and the rhythm of a human lifetime. The large celestial cycles are equally reflected in our most personal rhythms, and this can create a powerful interconnectedness. Let's talk about the monthly rhythms, or the inner seasons. The monthly cycle is a potent reminder of our fluid and constantly shifting energy. This is not just about a menstrual cycle, though that is a potent expression of it. It's about 4 inner seasons of creative and physical energy that anybody can track for themselves. This is a kind of an interesting concept, and I want to note ahead of time that this doesn't have to directly relate to the moon cycles. For example, for myself, I may have a period of inner winter where I need deep rest, even if the full moon is high in the sky. Please don't beat yourself up if your inner cycles don't perfectly match out with the celestial cycles. So, walking through these 4 inner seasons, your inner winter is the time of rest and can be correlated with the dark moon. This is the time of the lowest energy, but the highest intuition. Actions during this time could be journaling, research, and deep, deep rest. Then we move into an inner spring, which can align with the waxing moon, and it's a period of growth. The energy is rising, your focus can start to move externally, and your mental clarity is heightened. This is a good time to start new projects, schedule those important meetings, or focus on your external communication. And as we move into that inner summer, the peak of energy associated with the full moon, we have the highest energy. We feel the most outgoing, the most confident, and the most physically active. This is a good time, if you can, to schedule public speaking, intense physical activity, manifestation, and tackling the most difficult tasks. As we move into our inner autumn, the time of waning and decline, energy begins to recede, focus shifts inward for evaluation and for purging. This time is good for editing or banishing, deep cleaning, organizing, and doing some honest self-assessment. We use these moon and seasonal cycles as a powerful analogy for our own internal rhythms. Aligning your most demanding tasks with your inner summer and your most reflective work with your inner winter is not magic, it's self-care. This is a strategy based on observable biochemical and psychological data. Look, I know that aligning your inner winter with the dark moon is tough when your boss needs a report, but the goal here is not perfection, it's self-compassion and recognizing when to push and when to step back to avoid burnout. And of course, the bigger cycle in a human here is the cycle of our lifetime, or the cycle from birth to death. We move through the beginnings, the struggle, the culmination, release, and renewal in our own lives. The whole wheel of the year is anthropologically a human attempt to map our own life cycle onto the natural world. When you celebrate the turning of the wheel, you're celebrating the archetypes of your own human experience. The birth of an idea, the vigorous growth of youth, the wise harvest of maturity, and the necessary rest of old age. This search for meaning in the narrative is why we connect so deeply with patterns like the hero's journey, which is often studied in myth and in media. This journey, the call to action, the trials, the abyss, and the return, is the core structure of human growth. My personal tenets emphasize that wisdom is life as learning, knowledge, and enlightenment. So we acknowledge that there is no magical afterlife in the supernatural sense, but we can celebrate the cycle of sustenance and regeneration that allows our biological and intellectual lineage to continue. Ritual and shadow work become tools for embracing inevitable change and letting go of what no longer serves, and continuously building up our personal resilience. Ultimately, as an atheist witch, recognizing and intentionally aligning with the natural cycles of our world can transform our practice into something rooted, logical, and immensely powerful. It will take the magic out of the hands of an unseen external force and place it squarely within our own conscious awareness and personal agency. By observing celestial bodies, aligning with the seasons, and honoring our personal rhythms, we're simply becoming a better scientist of ourself. observing, hypothesizing, experimenting, and refining our craft based on verifiable psychological results. Your challenge, should you wish to accept it, is for the next 2 weeks, every morning, simply note 2 things. Number 1, what is the approximate moon phase? Is it waning or waxing or full or new? And number 2, how's your energy level? Just give me a low, medium, and high. Do this without any judgment of yourself. Just observe. And at the end of 2 weeks, look for the correlation. Maybe you'll find a powerful pattern emerging. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into the cycles of our world. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode on intention setting and goal tracking, along with a preview of next year's content. As always, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep making your own magic.